And first, a lot of NAB Cup games out of the way, onto the NAB Challenge now. How will you change the team? What's the plan of attack from now? Will you look to decrease the numbers of the squad that you'll play and obviously bring some guys back?
Yeah, well, we're going to probably have a look at who's coming back into our team. I think we might have 4 or 5 in a couple of weeks' time, so we're going to try and manage them in. But you know, we definitely like to, as the NAB games progress, to get closer to playing just a 22, and whether that's for a half or 3/4, you know, we'll have to chat to the other teams we're playing. But yeah, we'd like to make it a lot more fair dinkum, as in the rules and what kind of team we have and rotations and that kind of stuff, to what you know, round 1 and the rest of the season will be.
Will you continue to use the sub, or will you go down to 1 at some stage just to try and get a bit of match simulation for that ahead of round 1?
Probably, you know, our first NAB 2 we'll probably use a few guys on the bench, maybe have 4 or 5 on there. But NAB 3 and 4 we'll definitely trial just having 3 on the bench with the sub and see how that unfolds and see how it looks for us.
Dom spoke the other day and he said finals were obviously the aim, and if you didn't achieve that, it was maybe a wasted season. Is it as simple as saying that?
Oh, I don't think it is. I think like every team, we do want to make the finals, and every team has that goal set for them. But you know, we're going to look at our bigger picture of you know, 85% of our group are 18 to 25, and we're going to get some games into them and make sure we can manage them through the season. And you know, if we can get those guys playing on the park together week in, week out, we're going to be in pretty good shape for the years to come. So yeah, look, we do want to make finals, and we won't hide from that fact. But we also have to look at what the future is for the club and make sure we manage that pretty well too.
Chad did an interview the other day as well and spoke about the conversation you'd had with him and about how you'd look to promote some kids and that he might have to find himself up against those kids battling for a spot. What does that say about the long-term view of the club? Are you looking 2, 3, 4 years ahead for that window to be open, so to speak?
Oh look, I think you're always looking towards the future, and you know, we had a couple of, if you look in Chad's case, a couple of tall forwards and backs who performed pretty well last year. So he's up against that, and his performance Friday night showed that, you know, he's wanting to fight for his spot. So look, as I said, we've got a huge amount of players between a young age group, and we need them to play a lot of football if we're going to be successful, not only this year but in the coming years. So we've got to get that balancing it right, but you can't just play all the kids. You need to play some senior players, and Chad's involved in that. So look, it's all going to come down to who's playing well and who's in form, and who's going to play well in those positions.
And you looked at a few of the rookies on Friday night. Matty Lobe obviously is going to miss probably 10 weeks or so. Yep. You're looking to put him on the long-term injury list and have a look at a couple of those rookies, and who might they be?
Yeah, we probably will put Lobes on there. But you know, you only want to do that if you're really going to bring somebody up. And I don't know, I thought Jared Irons had a good game Friday night. Tom Jones was okay. So you know, we might have a look at 1 or 2 more of them in the coming weeks, and then see how their form warrants once the season starts. But I suppose you know, we want to get Lobes up and going. But yeah, I was pretty happy with how some of the rookies went.
Last season the team was able to generate a lot of turnovers in the forward half but didn't necessarily capitalise on the scoreboard. Do you put that down to the skill efficiency, or is that forward setup, or how would you explain that?
Oh look, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's you know, how hard you work to get the turnovers, and then what kind of forward setup, the size of your forwards, and the maturity and their ability just to keep playing an up-tempo style of game. So yeah, we want to work on that, but you know, first of all we've got to work on trying to get those turnovers, and if we can do that, then eventually the scores will come for us.
It's quite an experienced forward line without treaders out there. How important is Daniel Motlop to that setup, having him down there fit and firing? Oh
yeah, look, Mott's is important. He gives us something different, I suppose, but you know, saying that, we've got a lot of different guys down there, and they're all going to have to play their role as the season progresses. But yeah, look, obviously there's a lot of notice about him, a lot of talk about him, and he's performed well in the pre-season, and we'll see how he goes over the next month to see if he can get himself in for round 1.
Travis Boak obviously had a breakout year last year. Obviously had some groin troubles during the season, but he's had basically no pre-season or a very limited pre-season this year. How big of a concern is that going into the season?
Oh, look, we'd like to have been out on the track the whole time, but he had a pretty good, just before Christmas, before the appendix ruptured on him, and then since then he lost a lot of weight and had a bit of a patella soreness. But he's been doing a lot of running for the last 2 weeks, and he's starting skills this week. So we'll ease him into it, and we've had a very mindful that we're just going to be preparing for round 1, not for the NAB Cup. So you know, he's probably a bit behind the 8 ball, but by the time round 1 comes around, he'll be right to go.
And Ben Jacobs with the glandular fever, he's not up here in Clare, obviously. How far away is he? Yeah,
he's got a pretty serious dose of it, so we're not quite sure just how quickly it settles down, and how quickly he gets over and his body recovers. So we'll take our time with him. He's only a young kid, but you know, it was disappointing for him to go down with it. But I suppose with that, once it's out of your system, you can get up and going again. And he's a pretty driven kid, so we'll see him soon.
The bookies have got you at $3.80 to make the 8 this season. I think the Crows are $1.40 or $1.70 despite finishing higher than them on the ladder last season. Is that a fair indication of where you're at?
Oh, who knows? You'd have to ask the bookies why they're thinking that. But look, it's amazing. Someone always comes into the 8 and someone always drops out. So hopefully we can be that team, and we'll see who goes out of it. But you know, it's a long season, so it's going to have ups and downs, and teams will get on runs and get on rolls.
And there's already talk now the links to GWS are starting as they did with Gold Coast last year. What will be your approach? Will you approach guys that maybe don't sign prior to the end of the season that are being speculated about, or how will you handle all that?
Look, yeah, it's obviously an interesting discussion. We'll probably let it play out until we actually really need to know what's going on contract-wise, and you know, then we'll probably sit down and have a good, honest discussion with them to see where they're at. And you know, it's a difficult situation because normally once their names get bandied around, it's nearly close to spot on that they're leaving. So we're just got to be open and talk with our players and see where it's at.
Is it an added concern that you've got Choco in Sheedy's corner there? He obviously knows some of the boys very, very well.
Yeah, he does know them well, I suppose, but I would like to think that you know, we're progressing better than the Greater Western Sydney, and while money does speak to a certain extent, hopefully players want to stay at a club that's close to the finals than what another team is.